Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, broadcasting from the USA. That is from the southeastern part of the country. Going through a particular book called Psychology and Kabbalah, chapter 7 to chapter 27, I should say, super ego idea. Um, I hope that you're here enjoying the program as I try to share more from this particular author. This is another book that he's written. We hopefully will get a chance to encounter this book a little bit more tomorrow. What we call I guess a better word would be like the 10 principles of the Kabbalistic tree, and all the other particular artwork is in this particular book here. So let's get into the reading of this particular book, Psychology and Kabbalah, chapter 27, Superego Idea. At the moment of birth, the psyche is not, as some believe, a blank record. It is a complete organism with memories of previous lives and a consciousness of what is going on. However, upon the fusion with the infant body, is the infinite body, that is the child, its experience and capacity is greatly limited, and it has to learn from that moment of incarnation to live a new life. Over time, the consciousness of the prenatal state is buried beneath the preoccupation with physicality as the psyche adjusts to the laws of the natural world. It is also overlaid by the intake of new experiences that enter the psyche through the makuf of the body and yesod of ego. At first, the ego is developed in order to contain and control the primitive drives of the idea, nefesh, you would call it, so that it can get the best out of the situation as any animal will do. Thus, the child learns how to please his parents and thereby gratify his needs and avoid pain. It recognizes that food or love can be withdrawn if it does not comply with their will. This process builds up over the early years of life and forms what Freud calls the superego and ego idea, which we have combined into superego idea. According to the Freudians, the superego idea is the influence of the parents that emerges out of the ego's experience to act as an image of morality. Seen Kabbalistically, this is Bana Hoka Nam, or the interior mother and father in conjunction with Zera Ra and Hesed and Nesel and Had. Thus, the rewards granted by the parents accumulate around the right column of mercy, and their punishment focuses on the left column of severity. These aggregations are purely psychological, for it will be seen that the side triads have no direct contact with the physical tree. As the emotional and conceptual elements of the psyche, they hold the individual and collective values of the person as passed on by the parents. The super-ego-idea, however, is not the same as the soul, which is composed of Jerai, Tifrel, and Hesed, constituting on the central column, the organ of consciousness. In most people, the interjection or absorption of their parents' values becomes their model of good and evil. For example, in some primitive tribes, certain activities are taboo, like not speaking to their mother-in-law, while in other communities, it is considered bad taste if you are not courteous to your wife's mother. Many of these customs have lost their original purpose, but they form, along with those which are still practical, the rules of personal and social conduct. All this is embedded by a child, reinforced in adulthood, so that a large reservoir of do's and don'ts it formed in the unconscious. These dictates are not to be confused with consciousness, which means with knowing, whereas the super-ego-idea is largely unconscious. Here it must be said that various schools of psychology use the term differentially or differently, I should say. In the work, in this work, the above scheme will be used. Figure 31 is called conditioning. This is the battleground for anyone trying to free themselves from their conditioning. It is the place where free will can assert itself. Habit and instinct rule the person who is unawakened to the possibility of interdevelopment. Therefore, the unconscious and the cosmic dimensions are beyond reach. Only in the soul can choice regarding one's own life be made. This requires a self-conscious assertion, under trained discipline and constant effort to be centered upon the truth. From Halevi. It is clear that what is interjected by the child is a mixture of what the parents said and what their society demands, which is not always the same. Thus, instead of having a well-integrated system of interrelated emotional complexes and concepts, there will be many clusters of associate positive and negative experiences, which are not only unconnected, but even opposed, which can create powerful tensions within a person's psyche. These can be quite unconscious conflicts that nevertheless influence an individual thinking, feelings, and actions. Moreover, while the innocence of childhood may be lost, when discrepancies between parents and society are perceived, the super-ego-idea still has its effect in adulthood. The ego-idea aspect will manifest in high expectations of performance and ambition, while the superego element will chastise if the local values are contravening because the deeper laid foundation of the earlier years are the bedrock upon which the structure of the psyche is set. This leads to the fact that if a psyche is well balanced, a sense of certainty and confidence is established. If not, Freud observed, there is always a feeling of insecurity in the person, no matter how successful or affirmed the individual may be in later life. The Freudians see the solution to such problems in psychoanalysis, where these early distortions are identified and resolved. Kabbalists use the same principles but apply them in a world rather than in the consulting room so that a problem is solved by direct action. The power of parental influence is enormous in a child. And while it may react this way or that to his upbringing, it will nevertheless transform his outlook into an interior authority and later project his values also onto social authorities like teachers, police, political, and religious figures. Under ordinary conditions, this is useful because it controls the id, the nefesh impulses, and helps a person integrate with his society. If, however, the inevitable rebellion of youth against parental authority is not contained by the individual superego-idea, then the society will react. Jeravulically with its social and penal laws, even as a Hesed rewards good conduct according to its citizens with wealth and honor. The mixture of personal and collective checks and balances is the basis of civilization. The acquisition of manners in a primitive society, or the notion of chivalry that expects a gentleman or gentlewoman to behave as such, are more, however, than just veneer. Such things can produce events like the abolition of slavery or create communities where people behave according to political or spiritual codes. The super-ego-idea of some societies can, of course, be perverse, as in medieval Spain, where it was an honor to be a member of the Inquisition that burned and tortured thousands of so-called heretics and apostates. Here we see the difference between custom and conscience, the former being the accepted norm, the latter based upon a eternal morality. This often causes a split between conformists who usually live in the ego, and individuals who see from the level of the self and are no longer under dominion of the perennial super ego idea of the side pillars. Those who we, sorry, for those who are unaware of the difference between ego and the self, the substitute conscious of the super ego idea operates unconsciously. For example, if such a person does, thinks, or feels something socially improper, then a sense of guilt will arise from they know not where. Likewise, if they are performing well according to their society, then a sense of well-being will arise, often without their realizing where it comes from. Further, sometimes if a person is deliberately breaking rules but refusing to acknowledge it, which is not uncommon, then the super ego will impose its judgment down the side pillars and paths to effect makuk in an incident that punishes or draws attention to the misdemeanor. Such incidents can range from a small but significant mistake to an accident that spells out that something vital is amiss. Conversely, luck or good fortune can be attracted by the ego idea, which will create the psychological condition for perhaps promotion, because the person conforms to that society's model of what is right. This, of course, is contingent upon the values of that community, where reward has been known to be the privilege of being a human sacrifice. It depends on where you are fated to be incarnated. Consciousness is quite different from what is generally understood. It may be, as in most people, a blend of custom and genuine comprehension of morality. All religions have sought to raise their followers by instituting, or I should say, instilling certain ethical tenets that lift local practices above the social level. For example, the Ten Commandments are a code that considers all the worlds. The first three commandments, which are related to the supernatural or Sephirah, are about God, while the seven below God, the place of knowledge, are about human conduct. Hesed and Jabral speak of remembering the Sabbath and honoring one's parents, while Sephirah talks of not murdering. Nezad and Had are concerned with adultery and theft, and Yasad and Makuk with speaking the truth and not coveting one's neighbor's property. The position of each commandment on the tree and their specific order form the basis of morality that is conceived with the divine spirituality. The psyche and issues of practical world, that is. As such, they have a bearing upon a human being's place in the universe and his relation to others and to God. Thus, they are the laws that apply not just to this or that time and place, but to all conditions and levels of development. Real conscious is concerned with these laws and is expressed in a saying found all over the world. Quote, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. End quote. Which is to say, you see them as the same self or temporal. The super ego idea is the accumulated overlay or acquired experience and interjected moral authority. It acts within the psyche as the counterweight to the nefesh, with the ego holding the balance between. As such, it fills out the side triads of the psyche with a complete system of attitudes that governs the conduct of the individual in public, if not in private. See, that's interesting. He says that because people will act differently in public than they will be in private. Okay, it's not congruent, so to speak. This is people will act very well in some ways in public, but in the home with others, they are not. It's just a put on, so to speak. On the more sinister side, it must be said that the superego idea is the basis of psychological shadow that aids and abets the shadow of the idea. For example, I should say not id. For example, distorted values can justify murder. such as is found in the mafia's code when someone betrays the clan. It can also operate within so-called nice people who deliberately ignore someone in need of help because they disapprove of them. The super-ego idea is by no means a cohesive element. Indeed, some individuals have quite lopsided trees with too much emphasis on this or that triad or sephira as groups of dominant emotions or ideas distort the person's view of reality. Many petty officers, for example, suffer from excessive superego, and not a few do-gooders are so full of ego ideas that they cannot see that their efforts should upset. Their efforts could upset the balance of power and precipitate a war. In most people, these discrepancies are not obviously until they are all placed under pressure. For a few, unfortunately, the imbalances are too great, and the splits generates in childhood emerges in later years as a personality disorders or psychological disturbances. However, as a tree always seeks equilibrium so the id, ego, and superego dash idea will compensate as independent operations. Let us now look at the psyche as a working system. We're going to stop at chapter 27 tonight. As far as I know, the plan is that I will meet with Phil tomorrow morning. My time will be 9 o'clock. His time will be 2 p.m. London time. So we'll see if that works out. We will talk about some of the things that, some questions I have with Phil tomorrow. Again, it will be dealing with the Kabbalah, which also will deal with the psychology and Kabbalah, but also we will deal with some of the things here. This particular book has a lot of very little words in it. It has a lot of what I call artwork in it, which I don't understand. Okay, and that might be something we'll go through here with Phil tomorrow if we get the time and effort. There are also various symbols in here, different types of symbols in this particular book. So it's going to take time to go through this. Like I told him the other day when I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, it's a thick book. I don't mean, it's not a thick book. You see, it's not that thick at all. It's basically about 100 pages, but it is a thick book because there are a lot of things here I don't understand in this little small book. And it's a paperback book. If you have interest in this, you can go to Thames and Hudson. They did this book 50 years ago, probably 25 or 30 years ago, I think. I'm just thinking that. So the price here is looks like £9.95, whatever that means. I don't know what that means in pounds, so I know that's a British thing. So actually in London, I did buy this new from Amazon. That's where I got it at. But again, this is what they're talking about here. The tree part of it here. The colors are also differential. What's going on? So anyway, I don't want to make this video too long. It's about 20 minutes, so we'll stop at this point. And hope you enjoy it. Wish you a good evening. You take care. Good night.